regulators out there depending on what industry you're in. But even just taking HMRC as an example, if you have got people on payroll, you're going to have to be expected to basically submit monthly pay runs, and you're going to have to pay them on the 22nd of the following month. They don't like it if you don't pay them, and they basically throw the book at you, and they do throw a lot of penalties and fines. You've then got VAT returns. So if you are VAT registered, you'll have to submit them quarterly in most cases. Again, you've got a month and 7 days to get them submitted and paid up if you've got any amounts put to HMRC. And you've then got your limited accounts, which go to Companies House, but alongside that there's your CD600 corporation tax return. This needs to be submitted every year, and you've got your 9-month deadline of payment and a 12-month submission for your CD600 to HMRC and a 9-month deadline to Companies House. And on top of that, as a director, shareholder of a business, it's unlikely that you might be on just salary, so you might have some dividends, you might have some subcontract income earlier on. You've also got your personal tax returns to deal with as well. So that's the personal tax year that runs from the 6th of April to the 5th of April, and you've got the 31st of January following that deadline to submit those. This is just to sort of highlight how many touch points there really is with Companies House and HMRC, and how much responsibility there is on the directors of the business to meet these. And like I say, the best way to do that, if you've got a 5-year roadmap ahead of you with all your deadlines and everything, which we'll touch on, and how it actually affects the financials, it's the best way. And you know, if you're going to be going out to investors and you're already in the bad books with HMRC or Companies House, it's not going to look brilliant. So we do like to see things being in good shape when you go to them.
Yeah, investors won't like it, and if you're going to exit, if you've got a potential purchaser, they will do their due diligence. They will go back a long time, and they will want to make sure there's no skeletons in the cupboard from that point of view. So I've seen it buried on page 78 of the sale and purchase agreement. Can you confirm that every single payroll submission and payroll payment for the last 3 years have been made on time? Yeah. If the answer is no, you've got to explain that, and that affects the price, or potentially can impact sale. Another example, we had a client ended up selling for £6 million, which is nice that the sale was delayed for 6 weeks, because the year before they tried to tidy up the share capital. They had a couple of real minority shareholders that bought out. They wanted to do it themselves. They were quoting £900 between us and a solicitor's practice to get it through for them. They wanted to do it on the cheap. They did it themselves. They messed it up. It delayed the whole purchase by 6 weeks. So how much stress is that person put themselves under? Do stuff properly, do it right. Get it right first time from there.
We can circulate this if anyone wants it at the end.
All of these can be circulated.
Sorry, could you just send that to us?
Yeah, go ahead. So, the business plan and how it can be used internally. It's going to have a big effect on your team. It's going to give them direction, but it's also going to motivate them. They need to know what they're coming in and sort of giving you the blood, sweat and tears for. You need to be then realistic, informed and confident in the message that you're delivering out. You need to believe in your business plan. Maybe some people believe in it too much. If it's unrealistic, one investor's going to see straight through it. But again, your team, if it's going to be too much of a stretch target, it's not going to be very motivational for them. What they need to be able to see is, you know, at Blue Sky we have our current 5-year plan on the wall, all laid out, and the whole team can see what we're building towards year on year on year. And it's always good when we've hit something. I'm not even sure if I haven't hit something yet, so what the wider effect would be, but it could be a demotivator. So something to always think about with the wider team there. When you've got your forecast, which builds into your business plan, I think a lot of people sometimes get a bit mixed up between terminology between a budget and a forecast. The forecast has to be flexible. So you might set your budget at the start of the year and say this is what we want to do. That's what you're going to benchmark yourself every month. So when we're on month 9, how are we doing what we thought we were going to be doing 9 months ago? Are we doing better? Are we doing worse? If so, what do we need to address now? How do we need to change what we thought we were going to do? That's where the forecast comes in. So depending on how much you want to reforecast, it's up to you. I'd probably say anything more than quarterly is overkill. But the forecast is such a powerful tool for the simple question of where we are and where we thought we'd be. It's what the management team is going to need to use to make decisions going forward. We'll touch on that in some of the next slides. But in the startup space, cash is king, and it's the cash focus that you're going to have internally. It's going to help you make decisions. If you know the point, so our current, we will run out of cash in 12 months' time based on this expected sales, if you're making any, or these outgoing costs that we know about. It's going to help you make decisions if someone comes up with maybe an offer for some consultant work, maybe some marketing. You need to be able to see what effect this is going to have longer term. It's all fine and well, just forking out some money. If it's then just going to knock you, and you're going to run out of cash, and then the business is done for. Any questions?
Yeah. How do you balance, like, I mean, when you do your forecast, you don't want to be too optimistic and you don't want to be too pessimistic. So, of course, it's based on data, it's based on numbers, it's based on calculations, but it's not, I would think it's not good enough to be pessimistic, or it's not good enough to be, like, optimistic. So, how do you balance that?
Pessimistic's a strong word. I like the word prudent. It's all about being realistic, though. And yeah, I appreciate you're a startup business. What does that mean? Probably no historic data at all to go off. So yeah, a lot of it is maybe finger in the air. We'll run through, if that's on the forecast and technique slide, so we'll run through your, what's your market, what's your price and that sort of thing. So good question, we will touch on that later.
I'd agree with that. Prudence is the right word. You don't want to be optimistic. It's kind of going to be, this is what I genuinely believe will happen based on the experience I've got so far. Just remember, the word forecast is another word for guess. The one guarantee is it's going to be wrong. Yeah. Just make it as least wrong as possible.
So an investor will know this is a forecast. They're not going to cool you down to the penny month on month and say, why is this completely different? But they will ask questions and they will scrutinise it. So going back to, being confident in your own business plan and knowing it inside out, be prepared for an investor to maybe rip it to shreds. So you need to know where your figures have come from, and you need to have backup as to why you're putting your figures in your forecast. What's quite good then when you're talking about are you being too optimistic or are you being too prudent, is if you can show them some scenarios of sensitivity analysis. So maybe you've got a revenue forecast and you've put a big 12-month contract in there, the investor might ask, what's this going to do for your cash flow if that contract just didn't happen? What happens if the customer pulled out? Is the business still going to be sustainable? What happens if your rent's going to be 10% higher than what you think it is? What happens if you've put your subcontractors in too cheap? When you go out to find someone, it's going to be way more expensive. If you can build your model to be able to deal with this flexibility in scenarios, we can touch on that as well, but if you're good in Excel, it's nice to just be able to put some different figures in and say, right, well, actually, let's just pretend all my costs are 10% higher. Let that flow through on your cash. It'll give the investor some confidence, and that might be where you want to be a bit more, you might want to be pessimistic and say, well, look, even if we have an absolutely terrible year, we've still got the runway of 2 years by the time we're then making sales. But what they're really wanting is, like say, information. They want the value and they want confidence in you. So the question on their lips really is, if I give you this amount of money, when am I going to get that back? And do I believe in you yourself as the business? You might have an absolutely brilliant idea, but if they don't believe it's you as a business owner, it's going to be hard to get some money off them. Any questions on that one? We'll quickly go through the slides. Just some points of interest that we sometimes see people have when we've been in pitches. Feasibility of CapEx. This is your capital expenditure. It can work both ways. So some people are a bit overzealous and they're buying themselves all sorts of equipment they don't need. Investors might not like that because it is their money. Sometimes we've seen the reverse of it, where we've got a software development company with no computers on the balance sheet or anything like that. These are types of questions that might get asked, so just make sure you're covered for them. If you are then trying to finance expansion later on, they will ask about cash sources. So if you're going out for £500,000 investment and you say that's going to run out in a year and a half, there are going to be questions of, where's the rest of the cash coming if you're not going to be making sales for 3 in your forecast? It's not all about equity finance though. We'll touch, I think the very last slide has different financing options available. But if you can show them in your forecast, again, it just brings the investor confidence that you've thought about it, you've planned it out, you know what you're talking about, and you're basically not just going to be running around for normal investment, and it might be worthwhile for them. So I'll just touch on defence and external financing later. They will want to know about dividend policies. So for anyone that doesn't know, the dividends are basically how the shareholders are rewarded. So they're paid out based on sort of company's performance, based on the split of the different shareholdings throughout the business. Now, the company does have to be profitable. It has to have a positive retained earnings figure. If anyone doesn't know what that means, it basically means if you've got a load of accumulated losses in your first few years, you need to have a good few years of profits after that to sort of net them both losses off, to then have the company in a net positive retained earnings figure. It's this that dividends can be paid out from, and that's what possible investors are going to be interested in, because that's where they're going to start getting the return on investment. So if you can potentially give them a time frame for that, it's always a big bonus. And also just then clarity about what the dividend policy might be when the time comes. You might already have some debt on your balance sheet, you might have liabilities, so you might have had a startup loan in. So it's anything from maybe Transmit, or anything like that. You will then have sort of likely monthly capital repayments as well as probably some interest charges on top of that. They'll want to see that your forecasts are going to be able to cover that with enough headroom to grow the business. i.e. am I just going to give you some investment to pay off your debt and then that's going to be it and the business is not going to grow out of it.